morning, Malta and Gozo, and welcome to another edition of Lovin Daily. I'm your host, Jonathan Chilia, joined by my co-host, JP, and here are your headlines for today. Over 200 people in distress in Maltese waters, migrant hotline confirms. 6-month-old Frenchie left with first-degree burns after playing in corrosive puddle in Ormy. Mater Dei apologizes to woman who was turned away from gynecologist by security. Food couriers raise concerns after freelance model after drops in rate ends in suspensions. And Roberta Metsola lands top EU job with full approval by all political groups. Before we get into the stories today, I just want to have a quick word from our sponsor. The sponsor of today's episode is the Malta Book Festival. And I'm sure you guys have been following, but obviously the festival started this week. It's running on Wednesday, it's running till Sunday, and it's chock full of really interesting discussions, speeches, and you can get to know what's happening in the world of literature in Malta. Kids and adults alike will get to attend the online festival for free and indulge in a spirit of inventiveness, exchange, and creativity. All the kids' events are being streamed directly to their classrooms, and all the events are being streamed on ktip.org.mt. Some of the events are also streamed on Lovin Malta's Facebook page, so you can check them out there. There was some incredible discussion this week, as well as with Sir Salman Rushdie, a literary giant. And watch out for this Sunday's interview with Lovin Malta CEO and Daniel Holmes on his debut novel, which is coming out soon and published by Lovin Malta. Moving on to the first story of today, JP.
Yes, absolutely. Would love to start this program on a high note, but unfortunately it's been a tragic week in the Mediterranean Sea, with over 257 migrants rescued by Open Arms ship, a refugee ship. Unfortunately, yesterday, specifically, a Libyan a rubber dinghy leaving from Libya capsized in the Mediterranean Sea, resulting in about 111 survivors being stranded. They were rescued by the Open Arms boat. During the rescue operation, a video was taken of a Ghanaian mother crying out for her 6-month-old baby Joseph, who she lost during the shipwreck. And in fact, it was a video and with sound, and we're going to show it to you right now. While Open Arms arrived in time to save the majority of people there, unfortunately, baby Joseph, who was picked up by rescuers, passed away later on during the day. He was expected to be taken to Malta along with 3 other survivors, airlifted to Malta to be taken to hospital for medical care. Unfortunately, he passed away. Even though the Open Arms managed to get there in time. You can see through the video, it's quite shocking. The rubber dinghy has totally collapsed. People were being picked up from the waters by rescuers, as a young child in the video throwing up from all the water he swallowed. Unfortunately, this is the reality of people crossing the Mediterranean Sea, something we maybe forget amidst everything else going on. Open Arms is currently the only NGO rescue boat out in the Mediterranean, and it has 257 refugees on board, following 3 separate operations between Tuesday and Wednesday of this week. An alarm phone, the migrant hotline, has warned that over 200 migrants are missing in Maltese search and rescue zone.
You know, I think amidst all the heavy rhetoric we hear in local political discourse, immigration this, migrants that, a video like this really brings home the reality of what's happening daily, weekly in the Mediterranean Sea. There were some really incredible words to say about this. I mean, Open Arms said that the Mediterranean is a cemetery with no gravestones. And it's important to also put into perspective the numbers here. So since the beginning of 2020, this year, approximately 575 people have died on the same journey. And the numbers might even be higher. In October alone, at least 30 migrants are known to have died at sea. So this possibility that the number might even be higher. Let's remember that last September at the summit Med7, which is a very important meeting of Mediterranean countries, Maltese Prime Minister Roberta Bella had addressed the migration crisis in Malta and insisted that it is given more importance in the EU. However, as the video shows, lives are still being lost on a regular basis. So it really is time that someone steps up and starts to look into this migration crisis, as difficult as it is. Moving on to another really strange story. This was quite a shocking story that happened late last night, yesterday evening. A 6-month-old puppy, a French bulldog, was left with first-degree burns after jumping into a very strange puddle while taking a leisurely stroll through an Ormy valley. So this puppy, Cole, was going for a walk with his owner, a man named Jeremy Grech, in the valley near Talhlas pumping station in Ormy. Very beautiful area, very green, lots of trees. However, there were some puddles there. This dog was playing through all the puddles, not a problem. He stepped into one particular puddle and started, quote, freaking out. He started yelping, he started scratching at his bottom areas. He ran to the grass and started rubbing on the grass, and the owner was like, what's happening here? Did he get stung by a bee? What is this? They went home, and as he was rinsing Cole, he started noticing that his hair was coming off. He reached out to a vet, and next thing they know, they believe that there was a corrosive liquid in this puddle. Now, whether it was thrown there on purpose, whether it's a spillage, we don't know yet. But yes, the dog was left with several burns. He was left with burns to his paws, his legs, his testicles, and his chest. What's really crazy to me, JP, I don't know if you saw the video, but the owner actually got some of the liquid and put it inside an aluminium canister. Within an hour, this canister had corroded completely. You can find photos of it on lovinmalta.com. But yeah, you know, the owner has just reached out to other pet owners and said, be vigilant if you're walking your dog through Ormy Valley.
Yeah, no, absolutely shocking. I mean, I have a dog myself, and if that happened to me, I would absolutely be freaking out if my dog was in that kind of pain. Obviously, you consider what else, in that kind of ecosystem has been affected by this spillage. In fact, the owner himself, Jeremy, reached out to Water Service Corporation, who have now said they'll be investigating the liquid, and rest assured, Lovin Malta as well will be investigating this further, and hopefully we can get down to the bottom of why this corrosive liquid was there in the first place. Moving on to our third story of today, Malta Day Hospital has apologized to a woman who was turned away from the gynecology department. Essentially, she was turned away by a security guard who mocked her in sheer belief that she was a female. So she was turned away from the doors. Gabriella, who was the female in question, obviously went on social media expressing her disbelief that she was turned away from the gynecology department. She told Lovin Malta that she had no problem with the security guard making the initial error with regard to her gender. However, she said that rather than this female security guard correcting the error and apologizing for the mistake and letting her into the gynecology department, she doubled down and in fact proceeded to even make more fun of her and said, give me a second to laugh about this. Malta Day, obviously this is a terrible story that people that are being treated this way in 2020. Malta Day has, as soon as it was brought to their attention, they said they reached out to the patient, to Gabriella, apologized to her for the incident, and said they are launching an internal investigation into this case and will take necessary action. What do you think?
This is a sheer case of ignorance in 2020 in Malta. I can't even imagine the humiliation, the embarrassment you'd feel as a woman trying to walk into the gynae department with an appointment, mind you. So this is all above board. She had an appointment, there are doctors waiting for her, and the security decides, listen, you're not coming in because I don't think you're the right gender. That is mind-blowing to me. Very, very humiliating. And as she said herself, if she made the initial mistake and she genuinely thought Gabriella was a man, all right, weird, but fine, okay. But the fact that she was corrected and told, no, I am a woman, actually, and the security guard decided to say, give me a moment, I need to laugh, for me is actually extremely egregious, especially considering that this is someone that works in Malta Day, a state hospital, and fortunately this has reached the political level. Rosiane Kotayar, the junior reforms minister herself, as well as the parliamentary secretary for equality, said that Gabriella's bitter experience is clear proof that even though we have made great strides as a country, we still have a lot to do to educate everyone. Hopefully, this is just an issue of training. And this is something that I think we've spoken about before in multiple areas, from the police departments to state departments to the civil servants. It's important to know how to treat people, how to deal with people, especially if they're not of your demographic or whatever. So hopefully it's just a training issue.
Absolutely, absolutely. Hopefully it's just a one-off issue, to be honest, and hopefully we can learn from this and move on, and people can be treated in the right way. Before we move on to our next story, here's a quick word from our sponsors.
Moving on to our next story, and this is a story that, is shining a bit of a spotlight on the way that the food delivery services that have burst in Malta in the last few months amidst the pandemic kind of work. So one of the leading food courier companies in Malta, Bolt, recently had to restructure its payment method when it comes to couriers that work with Bolt. It's important to note that couriers in Malta working with these companies are not employees per se, but more seen as independent contractors. Bolt restructured its model and had to reduce some hourly rates as well as change some bonuses related to the distance, whether it's 1 kilometer or 3 kilometers traveled by the courier. And obviously a few couriers raised concerns over this. Now, obviously, Bolt is in an extremely competitive market, so I can understand where they're coming from to restructure, but I can also understand why the independent contractors might be concerned about this. And one particular contractor, courier, actually spoke out about it publicly. He said he called for a peaceful protest, and as a result of that, he had his account closed by the company. So in so many words, he was fired, as it were, because the company said that it went against company policy. Now, we've spoken to the CEO of Bolt, the head of Bolt in Malta, Seb Ripard, and he did admit that it was an error from our side. We should have been a bit more sensitive, and that they've reached out to the couriers, and it seems like they have settled that. But it does kind of open the discussion into how these couriers work in Malta, what kind of rights they have, and how easy it is for their payment methods to just change overnight.
Yeah, absolutely. Just a quick note that obviously after reaching out to the couriers, they reinstated his account, so he's allowed to now go back on the Bolt Food app. But obviously, yeah, no, it really is just a new territory. So it seems like with these freelance kind of these opportunities, a lot of these couriers, however, they come from Pakistan, they come from India, and they rely on this as their main source of income. So it's as opposed to a lot of us who might think of it as like a side thing they do after hours, after work. A lot of them rely on this as a main source of income, and because of that, it's something like this really affects them. It's become an oversaturated market, and it's a bit of a grey area in terms of contracts and what rights they have and whatnot, but Lovin Malta will be investigating this further. Moving on to our last story, Roberta Metsola lands a top EU job with full approval by all political groups. The MEP Roberta Metsola has just been unanimously elected as the first Vice President of the European Parliament. It's the most high-profile Brussels post a Maltese MP has ever held. She's not just the first Maltese or the first woman, she's the first person to hold this role. It's a new role.
Incredible.
And it makes her the second most senior among 705 MEPs and one of only 15 MEPs who have an institutional role that is not related to partisan politics. Quite an impressive achievement for her and for Malta in general, I would say.
No, it's actually incredibly impressive. It's important to note that she was nominated by her political group, the European People's Party, and she actually beat out the competitor, the Irish candidate Sean Kelly. And even though she was considered the underdog, she ended up obtaining 65% of the vote, so quite a good majority there. A lot of people in Malta, were celebratory of the fact that a Maltese woman was given such a prestigious role. Obviously, everyone at Lovin Malta congratulated her. The government, not so much.
No.
We didn't hear, as far as I know, I didn't hear any message of congratulations coming from the Prime Minister or the government, even though I think the President did reach out and say something. But from everyone here at Lovin Malta, definitely congratulations. Roberta Metsola, incredible, well done. And I hope that this serves as an example to young Maltese women who, might see the local political scene and might be put off sometimes, especially when they hear some of the comments that some male politicians make. Clearly, Metsola has proven that you can go all the way to the top if you stick to your guns and you stay honest. I think that brings us to the end of today's episode. Just a quick reminder that today's episode was brought to you by the National Book Festival. Started on Wednesday, running till Sunday. So if you haven't, enjoyed any of their discussions, checked out any of the books, especially what some Maltese authors are whipping up, definitely go to tib.org.mt, check out all the events happening there. Find more events on their Facebook page as well as our Lovin Malta Facebook page. They've got some incredible discussions going on there. That brings us to the end of today's episode. From myself and JP, have a day full of lovin'.